yesterday, as I was doing the show, the former finance minister, Grant Robertson, was on Radio New Zealand doing the 9 to noon show. And because he's written a book, Grant Robertson, and he's giving interviews to promote the book, just a week after refusing to appear at a public hearing of the Royal Commission for the COVID inquiry. He's escaped from his academic aerie down in Dunedin yesterday, so that at least we know, A, that he is alive, which is, I think, quite important, B, that he can appear in public without spontaneously combusting, and C, he does recall the events of COVID and his tenure as the finance minister during it. So all those three things are actually quite good things yesterday, proven by the Radio New Zealand interview, which would suggest that there's no real reason why he couldn't have appeared, and still couldn't, at the Royal Commission to answer their questions in public about his stewardship of the economy during that time. Grant Robertson, though, can't appear to explain, unfortunately, because he didn't want to, what he did with $66 billion worth of government money, but he can appear to hawk a book with $49.99. Just think about that one for a moment. 66. I'm not going to tell you what I did with the 66 billion. Nah, bugger off. You'll use it against me. But I can appear to tell you what I think you should do with $49.99 of your own money. Buy my book. In which I have to say, I'll tell you everything that you need to know. But it also, from our point of view, Grant, it tells us everything that we need to know about you as the man. That it's all about you, that it's all about your reputation, and it's all about your hermetically sealed conscience, isn't it, Grant? All must be protected, mustn't it, Grant, from the truth and from memory and from fact. And if not appearing at the Royal Commission, but hawking my book is going to do that, I'll do it. Grant Robertson in one yesterday. That he appeared in an interview with Radio New Zealand News yesterday. Susie Ferguson, I think, was the host on the 9 to noon program, exactly at the time, roughly, that we were doing this. It goes to show also something else. That he chose safe media, who he knew he wouldn't get any hard questions from, and that he knew would assist him and his publisher in promoting his book, his tome, his justification, and his view of the world. Te ao Grant, all right? And can I just say, why would you choose Radio New Zealand, the state broadcaster? Because we know, and Grant certainly does, that he's not going to get any tough questions from them. He ain't going to go on. He's not going to come with Michael Laws. He's not going to go with Sean Plunket. He's not going to go with Mike Hosking. He probably isn't going to go with Jack Tame. Even Tame. He's not going there. But he'll go on Radio New Zealand because they'll give him a free ride, just like they gave the government a free ride for the 3 years during COVID and its aftermath. He did, though, yesterday accuse Treasury, I might add, of rewriting history. All right, so a government department has rewritten history, but I'll come to that in a minute. He blamed Labour's 2023 election loss on that interview, which I had the misfortune of listening to. Well, no, I needed to. I mean, sometimes I can be a little judgmental, and I need to go, wait on, just go and hear what they've got to say, Michael. So I did. He blamed Labour's 2023 election loss on the cost of living crisis. Now, it was a crisis manufactured and curated in good part by his government's fiscal and economic policies, and by the deliberative printing of money and excessive printing of money in response to COVID. And then obviously the quite draconian tactics, it has to be said, of Adrian Orr and the Reserve Bank in response to that. But he was also saying yesterday, oh look, it's a cost of living crisis over here. We had no control of it, as if it was an asteroid strike from outer space. It was an extraordinary interview that Grant Robertson gave. It was nothing to do with me. It was sort of like, oh my God, there was a cost of living crisis. In exactly the same way that there was a COVID pandemic or whatever. There was a massive breakdown in the supply chain in the world. Or there was an incredible oil shock, or as I said, there was another asteroid that hit the Yucatan Peninsula and wiped out all life and anything made extinct around that area. It was nothing to do with me. It was the cost of living crisis was put and characterized in that mode yesterday. It was extraordinary. He then quoted the discredited theoretician and statistician Michael Planck, and we will talk about that a little bit later on today, showing how New Zealand's excess death rates were significantly lower in New Zealand compared to other countries. But there are a lot of countries, if you do the per capita, and because everybody measured it differently, every country trying to make themselves appear better. But which countries? But the whole issue was whether, and that was the issue that he did want to talk about, was the deliberate priming of the pump, the excess spending of billions of dollars when he didn't need to. But the question that was always going to be asked was, yeah, but was that justified, sensible, and obvious, given the advice, given the information that you were relying upon to make those decisions? All right. Now, you remember that Treasury started to push back, and Grant Robertson, and he accuses Treasury. But in actual fact, we now know from the documents that were released by Treasury under the Official Information Act that Treasury was pushing back and saying, no, you don't need to do this. Now, we've got, yeah, it's all right now. Now, don't, no! And Grant Robertson carried on. But he wouldn't talk about that yesterday, obviously. But in response to that, can I just say, I also had the opportunity to read the COVID-1 inquiry, because as we know, this is COVID-2 inquiry. And I had the opportunity, a lot of people haven't read it, So that's the first inquiry that was set up by Jacinda Ardern with a very, very limited terms of reference, which was, well, you could argue politically designed to exonerate the government and its actions from the period of when COVID was first alerted until the election loss. You could argue that it was set up to do that. And that's a valid argument to make because the terms of reference were so restrictive and didn't deal with a lot of issues that concern New Zealanders. Was, did the lockdowns need to go on that long? What were the educational, social costs of that? Were the public health messages honest and true and transparent? Were they based on fact? Were they legitimate? All those sorts of things. The efficacy of the vaccine. Did it really do what everybody said it was going to do? Did you mischaracterise that? All those things that have been covered by COVID inquiry too. But I had the opportunity last night to go back and read COVID inquiry number 1 and its conclusions. And I thought I'd just share them with you because it's not like Grant Robertson, if he relied upon it, didn't have a story to tell. And you see, that's the worrying aspect of this. My view in life is that nothing's black and white. Most things are just shades of grey. If the world was black and white, we would have solved all the world's problems by now. New Zealand would have no social, economic or political problems because everything was black and white. Yes, no, that's right, wrong, bang. That works. Off we go. Don't need to do that again. Yeah, listen, everybody knows that works. But it's not black and white. It is always shades of grey. And the nuances and the details are important because when you do come up with a black and white situation, you tend to founder against them. All right, as governments of the left and the right have done in this country in all of my and all of your lifetime. So Grant Robertson did have an argument. And in a funny sort of way, the argument was given to him that he could have promoted by the inquiry number 1. But I think we need to remember what the COVID-1 inquiry actually said when it came out and concluded its results, even with its strictly limited terms of reference and, you might argue, compromised commissioners. It said this, and here we go, because I'm going to test you on it. The first point it made, by the way, it referred all throughout the document to Aotearoa, New Zealand. So it renamed the country, Aotearoa, New Zealand, the COVID inquiry. There was one amusing part when it comes to a series that it wants to say New Zealanders, but it can't say Aotearoans/New Zealanders, so it leaves out the Aotearoans because everybody knows that's a stupid thing to say. Anyhow, but for the rest of this document, it's all about Aotearoa or Aotearoa, New Zealand, which sort of tells you something of the political and the ideological confusion that emanated through the COVID inquiry document number 1. But here we go. It made 6 major points. 1, the New Zealand economy recovered quicker and stronger than other comparable countries. Is that true? Look around. Number 2, New Zealand's unemployment rates remained low. And I think Grant Robertson conceded that when Treasury first came to him, he said in his book, and said, what's unemployment going to be like under COVID? It got to 13.5%. Well, boy, did that turn out wrong. And it became obvious very early that was wrong. But, yeah. Number 3, now listen to this. This is the COVID inquiry number 1's conclusions. New Zealand's learners, they don't call them students anymore or pupils, missed fewer days of school than most comparable countries. There you go. Number 4, New Zealand's learners, Aotearoa New Zealand learners, continue to perform above the OECD average, Josh. Now, really? That's a conclusion you've come to, is it? That seems slightly contradictory.
Well, surely that's completely inaccurate.
But exactly, Josh. What? That's the conclusion they came to. 5, now it's even more shocking, Josh. Our students' PISA scores are okay good compared to most other countries, Josh.
Oh, well, don't worry about a little thing called evidence. Don't let that get in the way.
And 6, Aotearoa New Zealand's lockdown measures were strict, but New Zealanders spent less time in lockdown than many other countries, which actually is untrue, even if you look at the Royal Commission number 1's own graphs. But that is the results of the inquiry number 1. Now, I've just given you the 6 takeaway points from those conclusions of COVID number 1 inquiry. Now, Grant Robertson could have repeated those things, but I guess if he had, he would have just looked bloody stupid, as does COVID inquiry number 1.